you get to make a choice about this life that you live. You get to make a choice. You get to make a choice of the opportunity to step into. You get to make a choice about the relationships you partake in. You get to make a choice about the jobs you participate in. You get to make a choice. Hear me very clearly. I am not recommending that anyone quit their job tomorrow, okay? Let's be wise about this. That's not what I'm saying. This is not a everybody quit their job podcast, okay? That's not what we're talking about here. Welcome to the Grace for the Growth podcast. I'm your host, Courtney Leo. The goal of this podcast is to encourage you on your own growth journey by empowering you to live your life with authenticity, freedom, and confidence. We will get real and raw as we dive into honest conversations about life, faith, business, relationships, dating, healing, and so much more. My goal is that you would walk away from our time together feeling a little less alone, a little less crazy, and a little more brave to be yourself. I hope you will find yourself more compassionate to past you, challenged as present you, and excited for future you. Embrace the story, welcome the messy of it all, sit in the unknown, and most importantly, live authentically. So pull up a chair in my virtual living room and let's dive into today's conversation. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Grace for the Growth. My goodness, I am here and I'm coming to you from a brand new podcast studio. If you don't know yet, we are posting these podcast episodes on YouTube. So you guys have asked for it for so long, literally months and months and months. And we have been recording video content for all of our podcasts for a while now. But recently have gotten the systems in place and the team members in place to be able to publish those episodes on YouTube. So if you are watching here on YouTube, you can see my new background. If not, if you're listening to the podcast, go ahead right now and go to youtube.com/Courtney Leo. That's Courtney with an extra Y in the middle, Leo. And there'll be links here in the show notes for you. But go ahead and go over to YouTube. While you're there, would you do me a favor and would you subscribe to the YouTube channel? I'm going to be one of those cringy people and ask you to subscribe and like and comment. And the reason I do it is not just because, oh yeah, that'd be cool, will you please engage with our content? No, because it actually severely helps us reach more people on YouTube when we have more subscribers, when more people are interacting with our videos. And so if you are a YouTube podcast junkie, would you go on there? Would you subscribe? Share a little thought, maybe a question that you have for me, those kind of things, like it. That would really help us out so much. And so we're still releasing podcasts wherever our podcast platforms are, but want to make sure that you subscribe to YouTube. We also have some really fun things coming up in some future episodes that you're really only going to get the full experience if you have the visual going along with the recording. So you're definitely going to want to watch some podcast episodes on YouTube. So that's the first thing I wanted to share with you, because here we are, new background. I'm looking at the new background. You're looking at the new background. The other thing that's new around here, so we haven't recorded new podcast content in a while. We've been doing some replays. We've been doing some different reruns. We've been releasing some video content on our YouTube of previous podcasts that we released audio only. That's what I meant to say. So it has been a while since I have sat right in front of you and given you new content, which I'm going to give you a little catch up as to why that's been, catch you up on all the things, all that kind of stuff. But the first thing is, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see, but I am engaged. I'm engaged. Let me say, if you're on YouTube here, I'm showing you the rock. It's not focusing. I don't know. Like, how do I do this? How do I do this? Is that right? Oh gosh. I don't know. Oh, there you go. Okay. Anyways, I'm engaged and I'm very, very excited. Let me address the first question. And this isn't what our episode is about today, but I just missed talking to you guys. So I'm just going to give you the lowdown. But, the last recorded episode we did kind of live was our YouTube premiere. It premiered on May 10th, and it was my friend Lauren Matthews interviewing Nick, my fiance, and I. And spoiler alert, we actually got engaged the evening of that YouTube/podcast premiere day. We had recorded it like a couple days in advance. And I remember when we were like planning the schedule, I remember Nick going, "When is that podcast of us releasing?" And I was like, "Oh, May 10th." And he was like, "Interesting. Do you know what time?" And I told him, "I don't know, first thing in the morning, whatever." I had no idea. I absolutely promise. I had no idea that that was going to also be our proposal day. He had planned our proposal day months in advance, and I had planned that schedule and that release day with my podcast team weeks in advance. So, like, we didn't even talk to each other about scheduling or anything like that. So, for those of y'all who are like, "Oh, you totally released the episode with you and Nick, it was Nick's first episode on your engagement day," I promise I had no idea. I had no idea. So that leads me into a great segment, just to let you know, and I'll talk more about this at the end. But I'm going to do today, I have some thoughts that I want to give you, some encouragement that I want to give you, as well as kind of catching you up on the whirlwind of the last few months, what I've been learning, what the Lord's been teaching me. And I really feel like I have something special I want to encourage you with today. But what's coming after this episode? So, we're releasing this episode today, and then coming up the next couple episodes, Nick is coming back. So, you'll hear a little bit about this, but one of the crazy things that have happened in the last little bit is I have moved to Nick's city in Georgia. And so we have closed our long distance relationship season, and we live 12 minutes apart, and it is so new, and we are navigating new changes, but that also means we get to record content together much, much easier. And so he is coming back to the podcast, and we are actually going to do a series. You guys have been asking about it. You have been writing in, you have been DMing me, you have been answering Instagram polls. You guys have been asking. We want to hear more about your story, and we want to hear more about what the Lord's been teaching you. Like, I have talked about singleness and dating for years, and how did that actually apply? Did it actually work? What are the things that I regret? What are the things that I'm really glad I did? What are the things that have completely shocked me about finding my person? Also, you guys are super curious about who this guy is. And so we wanted to share with you a little bit about our singleness journeys, the big things that we've learned along the way. If you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, you probably know a little bit of context about my journey, but I want to share with you in case you're brand new, and then also give you some more context into Nick's story. Then we're going to share a little bit about our journey. People are always asking me about long distance relationships and how did you know he was the one, and stuff about boundaries, and when is too much to share this and too much, not enough to share that, and just like all of these things. And so I want to be really transparent with you. I want to be really honest with you about what our process was like, what our experience was like. And yeah, there's more I could say about that. But I have this tendency, and any of my clients who are in my group coaching program, Authentic Life Activator, they will testament to this. I have a tendency to do what I call is an intro before the intro. So whenever I'm doing trainings or coaching sessions to them, I usually give like a whole intro, which is like the intro of the training. And then I'm like, we're not even to the intro part. So I'm basically trying to not give you the intro to the whole Nick series, Nick and Courtney series, whatever it may be. So all that being said, we want to talk about our singleness journeys. You've been asking for it, where we want to talk about what dating was like for us, and we want to tell our engagement story, which so many of y'all have asked, and I just really haven't sat down for 0.2 seconds enough to tell it and really do it justice. I have some really fun behind the scenes content from that day that has never been seen before, never been shared before. I haven't shared it on Instagram. We're going to share it here, YouTube. And so you're going to get to see it. So it's just a lot of good things coming up. So make sure that you are subscribe to podcasts, subscribe to YouTube. You're definitely not going to want to miss these next few months. And I also just want to encourage you to be asking questions, to be commenting, to messaging me on Instagram. We are going to have moments, especially in that Nick series, where we are answering questions. We might have a whole episode about answering questions, to be honest. We're just going to kind of see how it all plays out. But I'm just really excited to be able to kind of tell the story from start to finish. We haven't really done it. And by telling the story start to finish, I don't necessarily, want to like bore you with the biography of it all, but I want to use the story as a vehicle to share what I've been learning, because I feel like I have kept a lot of things over the last 9 months or so when it comes to love and relationships and dating and my relationship with Nick. I've kept a lot of things really close. I've shared a lot, but I've kept a lot of things really close. And I'm ready to share a bunch of those things. So I'm very, very excited. I'm excited to do it with him too, and to have those conversations with him, and for you to get to know him a little bit as well. So that's my intro before the intro. That's like what's coming up. That's like the announcements, because I feel like I haven't talked to you guys in a little bit. So that's what's been going on. I am just in this season, really, of this engagement season of planning a wedding, moving, so many changes. And I'm really excited about what the Lord is doing here in this community and this space and the conversations that we're having. I feel really, really strongly about, there's this phrase that keeps coming up for me, and it's say the things that nobody is talking about. I want to be able to name the things about singleness, about dating, about growth, even about the engagement season, about healing, about job situations, about navigating family dynamics. I want to say the things that just go unsaid, and yet so many of us experience it. I want to say the things, so much of this engagement season has been me really trying to like work my mindset and adjust my mindset to be emotionally attached and excited about this wedding and the elements of it. Of course, I'm excited for my marriage, but excited about that engagement season and wedding, because I just convinced myself for years and years and years in my singleness that I might not ever get a wedding season, or even if I was, it was so far away. And so I've just protected my heart from wedding after wedding after wedding after wedding. And so now that mine is here, my heart is still like super guarded. And so what has been that process like for me? And I just want to be really transparent with you all about it. And as I've shared bits and pieces on a small level on Instagram and in stories and those kind of things, I have just been flooded with conversations. People who have recently been married in the past couple of years saying, thank you for saying this. I felt the same way. People who have a feeling they're about to get engaged saying, wow, thank you so much. Like I've been wondering if I would experience this, and it's really good to hear your experience. So I just want to be totally transparent and honest about this. Last thing I'll say before I dive into our little catch up and also the message that I want to share with you today is I feel very, very strongly to continue to show up, speak up, and advocate for healthy, safe, and relatable single experiences for Christians. I don't think there's enough of them. I don't think there is enough of singleness experiences. And I think out there, I think there's even a lot of stuff about Christian dating, not a ton, but I think there's a lot more stuff about Christian dating. And I celebrate that. And of course, I'll talk about that. But even beyond that, I want to be a safe space for singles to feel like holistically we can talk about the singleness experience beyond just your dating life or lack thereof, beyond just your lack of marriage, because there's so much more to you, and there's so much more that you're navigating beyond just relationship. I have over 30 clients currently, and there are very, very few of them that are actually actively dating. The majority of them are experiencing so many other things in singleness, because so much goes into singleness. And so I want to continue to be a space for singles here. Grace for the Growth is not exclusively a singles podcast, however, and it is a place where my heartbeat definitely is all about how do we get to live this fully thriving, abundant life. We get to live authentically in who we're designed to be. We get to embrace the messy, sit in the unknown, and live authentically. We get to be honest about our stories. And the vehicle that I have found in coaching and I have found myself in and speaking to very specifically is singles. However, when it comes to these conversations on Grace for the Growth, I want to continue to hold space for stories. I want to continue to hold space for us navigating the growth journeys, for us being honest about the high moments, the low moments, and everything in between. And so that's what I want to continue to talk about. So even though my season is changing outside of singleness, my content towards singleness is not changing. And I also just want to clarify that Grace with Growth will continue to be a platform about authenticity. And we'll talk a lot to singles because that's the majority of who listens to it. Unless all of you non-singles start messaging me and tell me that y'all are listening to it too, then I'll know. But I hear the most from singles on this platform. So just want to let you know kind of where we are there. All right. Can we transition into this? It's honestly a perfectly and great, wonderful segue into what this is. So let me tell you a little bit about the last season of my life and kind of what I want to talk about today. And this has very, 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 very little to do with singleness, with my relationship, like all of that. And so, but it's a very huge part of my life. And I think something that has come up time and time and time again in conversations I've been having with clients and with friends. And it's this thought of what is the balance of taking autonomy for your own life versus seeking mentorship versus, quote, waiting on God. What is that balance? What is that dynamic? What is that process? I want to talk a little bit about job stuff today and career stuff specifically. However, I think what I'm sharing could apply to so many other things outside of job. And I want to tell it through giving you kind of some context about the last season of my life. And some of this, you can go back to previous episodes and get more in depth in it. So I'm just going to kind of skip through some of it. But when I got out of grad school, I was very much in administrative work. I love administrative stuff. I love systems. I love organization. Like, oh my gosh, it's almost school supply season. And I'm like, can I please be a student? Because I would love color-coded file folders. I pretty much do everything digital now, but I love school supplies and office supplies. Like, it is so fun. That was my first kind of career. And I found myself at a crossroad where I loved the kind of work, but I didn't like the environments that I was finding myself in. Fast forward, I find myself working full-time in ministry or working full-time at a church where I get to use my administrative skill set because I was working with our like database and like numbers and groups and planning center, if you know, you know, and all of those things. But then I was also able to lead and facilitate small groups. I was speaking more. I was sharing more. I was leading teams and training and all these different kind of things. And so it was kind of a wonderful combination of the two of them. As that season was kind of closing out, I started getting some bugs in my ear. Maybe the Holy Spirit, maybe some mentors, just different things. And because I still had this passion for helping people with systems and administrative work. And I had done it all through college. I had done it after grad school, like all this kind of stuff. And I loved it. And so I kind of had some bugs in my ear of like, what would it look like for you to kind of launch out and start helping small businesses with their operations and administration work, kind of being in an operations business. And long story short, I end up starting that business with a business partner. Also around the same time, I get this incredible download from the Lord about coaching and speaking to a specific audience. And I just got jazzed about it. I just got jazzed about coaching people. And my thought was, okay, great. Me and my business partner are going to create this operations and administration business. And we are going to build it, and we're going to build it up to agency level to where we're at agency level. And so then we get to just kind of move the moving parts. We're like working with other people who are working the systems, all this kind of stuff. And so it's going to actually be like less daily in and out work for me and more just like managing our teammates and those kind of things. Once it gets to agency level, then I'm going to launch my coaching business. So that was my thought. So here I was transitioning out of vocational ministry because I got to go back up here. There was a lot of things going going around at that time anyways, making it very clear that I needed to leave that role. And so it was just a nice coincidence that God was giving me all these downloads about coaching and then operations business. And I felt that I just, the church job was so incredible until it wasn't. But it was taking up this mental and emotional energy beyond the office hours that I was in the office. It was small groups. It was coffees. It was conversations with people. It was when I would get home, I would just be completely spent. It was so many weekends. It just was all consuming. Like it felt like I had very little time for anything else. Now, don't get me wrong. I definitely had time for other things. I didn't work 7 days a week, 24/7, but the mental and emotional weight that job carried on me, the way that I was constantly thinking about it, the way I had terrible work-life boundaries, because in ministry, like, everybody was texting me all the time. Everybody needed something from me at any hours. I just had really no time off because it was, quote, ministry. You have small groups at all different times. Like, people needed to be let into buildings. Like, shipments need to come in. Like, it was just crazy, right? Absolutely crazy. And so I realized that if God wanted me to step into this new dream of coaching, I actually needed more mental and emotional margin to build. And honestly, that was the same thing for the operation and admin business as well. I needed more mental and emotional energy to build. And I just couldn't. Well, then now we're back to where we were. Then I find myself needing to leave that job. Things were getting bad fast. And so I needed to leave that job. So I leave that job and I'm like, all right, great. Well, now I'm in my entrepreneurship era. And this is 4 years ago, by the way. So it was like the fall of 2020. Everybody had been working from home. It feels like a million people had started businesses while they were working at home. And so it felt a little trendy. Sorry, I had to get water. If you're listening on the podcast and not on YouTube, if you hear any random breaks, it's because I need water. Hey, by the way, Owala, if you want to sponsor me, I would love that. Basically, because I pretty much own stock in Owala anyways at this point. Okay, I digress. Squirrel moment. I really love this color too. Do you see it? If you're on YouTube, you can see it. Okay, great. Anyways, so yeah, it's 2020. I'm like, I'm gonna start a new business. I'm like, I'm gonna be in my hustle era. It's almost Christmas time. I'm gonna go work retail for holiday hours. I'm gonna go drive for DoorDash. Like, I'm gonna hustle while we are starting this new operations admin business, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna pay my bills. Blah 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 blah. Guys, let's be real. I was not making a ton of money at church. Shocking, I know, but I was not making a ton of money at church. But it still was going to take a lot of time for me to cover my bills. Let's just be real. I didn't really see it that way at the time, but it just really was. But I knew that stepping out and stepping into this new was something I needed to do. So what was I going to do? I needed to find something that needed to cover my bills. I needed to find something that I could have a good work-life balance for. So I get approached by somebody that I had known at the church who approaches me with a job. She works for our local government, for the health department. Remember, it's 2020. They work for the health department, and they are needing some temporary help for COVID stuff. And she's like, are you interested in all in it? I was like, I do not have a medical bone in my body. I mean, outside the 206 bones that I actually have. But as far as like knowledge, education, like what business do I have being in a health department? Like, literally makes no sense. But it was COVID work. They just needed smart minds and people who could do work, check the boxes, all this kind of stuff. She says you get to work from home. And it's very like clock in, clock out, like this specific role, like you do the job and then you're like done for the day. You don't have to think about it. And I'm like, the dream. And so she's like, yeah, so it's a temp job, so it could end at any point. But that's kind of the offer. And so I apply for it and pretty much get it in 2 seconds because they pretty much just needed competent humans. And because it was temp work, and I'm pretty sure it was grant funded at that point, which is a whole thing that I've learned a lot about, there was a lot of money in it. And so immediately I am making like 30% more than I was working at the church. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, okay, I promise there's a point to all this. Okay. So stick around. And I'm like, okay, Lord, this is crazy. Like, here I was thinking I'm going to have to hustle like crazy. And you have just given me a job where I can work from home, where I don't have to commute. I don't have to deal with people. And I actually get to like sit and heal. And I get to do my job really well. I don't have to worry at all financially. I at the time had a car that was like going out, so I was able to buy a car. Crazy. It was just a crazy time. Here I was thinking that I was going to be in a little bit of financial stretch for a little while I hustle it to entrepreneurship. And God said, no, here's an opportunity here. Here's my very first point. If you find yourself in a crossroad, I want to encourage you to look for the ways that God is blessing you, even if it doesn't make sense, or even if it's not how you thought. I could sit here all day and I could say, well, I didn't want another 40-hour-a-week job because that's going to take away from me being a business owner and me being an entrepreneur and all this kind of stuff. But look what God did in the meantime. God provided an opportunity for me to not have to worry financially, for me to be in a place to be able to do things, to be able to buy the car that I really needed, to be able to build the operations business at a pace that felt safe, at a pace that I didn't have to build it out of scarcity. What a gift. What a gift. In that season of working that job, the first year and a half or so, I was promoted twice. And by the year and a half in, they had instilled me into a full-time position, full benefits, more money than I've ever made in my life. And I'm sitting here and like, what the heck? Now, don't get me wrong. There were seasons of that job that were crazy and insane. And I hope to never relive weeks like that ever again. It was crazy, crazy time. And if you know anything about healthcare and 2021, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so, it was crazy. But here I was in a leadership role. I had 50 or 60 people that were indirectly reporting to me, not directly. I had like team leads and those kind of things. And here I was, and I was like, and I was just gonna go work at DoorDash and I was gonna hustle my way through, which let me tell you, I have worked at DoorDash multiple times in my life because it's really great. It's a really great flexible option to get stuff done. And I get to listen to podcasts and it's wonderful. So I'm not hating on that. But what I am saying is, what would have happened had I been so close-minded and I had been like, oh no, like I really actually need to be in this season of business building and I really need to be in this season of doing it. Because let me tell you what happened in the 4 years that I worked at that job. Okay. Almost 4 years that I worked at that job. Like I said, got promoted multiple times, got promoted into a full-time position. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. In the almost 4 years that I worked there, I not only was able to find myself for the first time in my entire life, the first time in my adult life, I should say, first time in my adult life in a financial place that I felt so comfortable. I felt like I was able to step into some financial things. I was able to sow into some things. I was able to invest in some things, not just for other people, but also for myself. I was able to give like I've never been able to give before. I was able to do that because of the financial blessing there. But here's the other thing that happened. And I said this about 3 years ago. I did not realize how much healing had to occur in those last 4 years. That first year I was working that job in the end of 2020 and 2021, that was the place where I started connecting and building community online. It was my first adult relationship. I was dealing with a lot of a lot of healing from church hurt that I didn't realize was going to hit me because I didn't really think I had as much as I did. I went through, I like started therapy, did that. And there was just so many things that happened. And I look back and I don't think I would have made the shift into where I am today, being able to pursue my dreams, seeing those dreams come to life. And I'll get to that in a second. Had I not have the margin and the capacity to do everything else about my life that was outside my job. So here's where I'm getting at. One, I want you to be open to the ways that God is providing answers and restoration and peace for you in ways that may not look like exactly as you thought. I thought entrepreneurship was my ticket out. I thought it was a lifeboat. Here's the thing. For me, entrepreneurship was a lifeboat. However, it was a lifeboat that I had to build. While I was drowning, trying to find a solution, trying to get out, trying to get to places where I could heal and breathe and have balance in my life. It was a lifeboat, but it was a lifeboat I had to build. And I was not strong enough to build that lifeboat. I was not strong enough. And God provided another lifeboat. God provided another lifeboat, another financial opportunity, another job, so that while I'm not drowning, while I am on this lifeboat, I then can build the lifeboat of entrepreneurship. Nice and slow, lots of learning along the way, but by goodness, by goodness, it was so peaceful and it was so calm. And by that, do I mean it was easy? Absolutely not. In fact, the last 3 years were quite tumultuous, but I learned and I grew in ways that I never thought that I would before. And so I encourage you, when you feel yourself getting at this point, when you're like, oh God, when is things going to change? I feel like all I do is work. I made a commitment that I didn't want to be so consumed by work. I still even feel that way now. I did not want to be so consumed by work. I wanted work to fund my life. I didn't want work to be my life. If you find yourself there, the first question I have for you is, are you open to other lifeboats? And two, how strongly is your identity and your worth tied to your job, your title, your accolades? How strong is it tied to it? Because if it's tied to it, if that's wrapped up in your identity, great. I mean, great. But that's going to be really, really hard to find a different alternative or to be open to new possibilities. Or what does it look like for you to find your financial needs met somewhere else, or in a different way, or in a creative way? Or, maybe you have to take a pay cut here, but you're able to get a gig here, or maybe you're able to work part-time here. I don't know. What I want to encourage you and inspire you today by my story, sharing you a couple different things, but inspiring you that there are alternate solutions. I've talked about this before, but God is working with a deck of cards that is beyond and more full than just the hand that we have been dealt and just the hand that we are holding. And so when you are looking for a way out, would your eyes be open to the ways, the conversations, the opportunities that God is trying to pull your way, that God is trying to bring your way? You get to stand up and you get to choose the life that you want. You get to take autonomy over your life. If I were to ask you, what is a free, full, and abundant life look like to you? What does it look like for you to thrive? What would it look like for you to have this dream life? No matter if you're single or you're not, I want you to take a few moments and I want you to think about what the fully abundant dream life it is. What is the active role that you want to take? What would you be doing? What would your spare time look like? Where would you be going? Would you be traveling? Would you be hanging out at a coffee shop with friends? Would you be spending more time with family? What would you be doing in this free and abundant life? And then I want to ask you, where have you felt like a victim? Like life is just happening to you, that you are just on a hamster wheel, just rolling through life, unable to get out of this hamster wheel. Because my friend, if you hear anything from me today, I want to remind you that this abundant life, and I'm not just talking about financial abundance, although I do think that's pretty cool, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a life that feels full of joy, that feels like you have autonomy, that feels like you make choices. This abundant life is accessible and I think is desired. I think it's desired by God for us. In John 10:10, I've talked about it before. And you can go back to previous episodes and look at what I'm talking about abundance, because 2023 was God asking me, are you available for abundance? And so there's so much more there. But in John 10:10, it says, I have come so that to give you life and to have life more abundantly. And have life more abundantly. Life more abundantly. And life more abundantly. I had spent way, way, way too long living like a victim of my own life. My own life. And for so long, I sat there with this victim mindset of my own life. Life is just happening to me. This always happens. When is it going to change? Until I decided, no, I get to co-create with Christ and I get to say yes and I get to choose a different option. I get to be open. I get to pray about, God, what are the doors that you are opening? What are the people you want me to come in contact with? It might not be how I thought. It might be not at the timing that I needed. Guys, in 2020, if I had it my way, I would have launched straight into entrepreneurship, being my own boss, the whole thing. And let me tell you, it took almost 4 years. It took almost 4 years. It was a lot slower, but guess what? I needed every single moment, every single second of those last 4 years to not just learn what I need to learn by launching 2 businesses. Spoiler alert, I didn't wait until the operations admin business went to agency level. I actually ended up being bought out by my business partner. And she has now taken that business and started running with it, because literally after like a year and a half, I started feeling God asking me to start taking steps towards the coaching business. And I was like, God, this is not the right time yet. This is not the right time yet. I can't. Nope. This is not what we talked about. We talked about waiting until the first business was agency level. And he was like, yeah, but I need you to start this work now. And so I spent a year and a half working on behind the scenes stuff for coaching business, working on myself, getting so much help from mentors and leaders who are walking me step by step, hand by hand, not just in my own healing journey, because hello, coaches need coaches, but also in just skills that I needed to learn and all these different things. And it wouldn't be for a long time until I launched the coaching business, but I just knew I needed to make a different choice, and I just knew I needed to step forward. So where have you felt like a victim in your own life? Because you get to make a choice about this life that you live. You get to make a choice. You get to make a choice of the opportunity you step into. You get to make a choice about the relationships you partake in. You get to make a choice about the jobs you participate in. You get to make a choice. Hear me very clearly so I don't get sued. I am not recommending that anyone quit their job tomorrow, okay? Let's be wise about this. That's not what I'm saying. This is not a everybody quit their job podcast, okay? Like, that's not what we're talking about here at all. So let me be very, very clear. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if you feel like you're on the hamster wheel of life, if you feel like you're spinning, I want you to remember that you get to make choices about how you engage. And just remember that your job is not the end all be all. It is not 24/7 of your life. And you get to make a choice. If the job that you're in takes on more mental and emotional weight than the hours you're paid for, take that into consideration. Take that into consideration. I was fortunate when I was working this temp job that turned into a permanent job to have an incredible boss who was very trauma informed and very like an advocate of mental health. And whenever I had to have hard conversations with employees, and trust me, I had to have the hardest conversations with employees I've ever had in my entire life. when I had to have hard conversations with employees and it was just hard on me mentally and all this kind of stuff, she said, make sure that you accommodate for that in your pay. Make sure if it goes into the evening that you are aware of that, because part of the mental and emotional load that it requires you to lead in this job is part of your paycheck. Like, you processing through the mental and emotional weight of this job is part of this job. And so feel free to do that on working hours. If you need to go for a walk, if you need to take a pause and log out for a second, if you need to, whatever you need to do, like, remember those hard conversations. Like, we pay you to have those hard conversations, and therefore we're also going to pay you to recover from those hard conversations. Don't take advantage of it, obviously, but we're going to pay you to recover from those conversations. I know that that is a privilege, and I know that most people are not privileged with that kind of environment. But what it taught me, not just as a leader and boss for future employees, but what it taught me is that the conversations that we have to have, the mental and emotional load that we have to carry, so many of us are working hours long after we clock out because of the mental and emotional load that we take on. And I just want you to be aware of it. I just want to be aware of it. I don't necessarily say go in to talk to your boss tomorrow and be like, well, Courtney got, that was part of my job, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay. Like, let's change overall the mental health crisis in this country. That would be great. But Rome wasn't built in a day. It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So wherever you felt like a victim in your own life, like life is happening to you. And what is the cost of staying the same? What does it cost you to stay the same? That's my encouragement for you today. Here's the end of the story before I wrap up. Is I was in that job for almost 4 years. I worked hard. I worked really hard. And it led me into a season where I really, I got to be in a place where I got to lead and I got to manage. I grew in confidence in myself. I had confidence in myself, and I was sitting in rooms that I would have never even imagined that I would have sat in. And it is a huge part of my story. It is a huge part of my story. And over the last year, I've had the ability to finally launch the coaching business that I dreamed of. I've been dabbling a little bit in it, probably for like a year before that. But in July of 2023, a year ago, I launched Authentic Life Activator, which is a group coaching program for singles. And I also have a VIP coaching program as well, where I walk people through living authentically in whatever season they're in and whatever they're navigating in, business, career, family, all that kind of stuff. And so we launched that in July of 2023. And I've been able to build it nice and slow outside of my 9-to-5. And what a gift to be able to build the business that God has called you to without the fear of scarcity. For anybody who's wanting to launch a business, one thing a business mentor told me before I started all this was, so many of us are so quick to jump out of our 9-to-5 into entrepreneurship, but because we're looking for an additional stream of income. Well, what if your 9-to-5 was your additional stream of income? What if your business was your heartbeat and your 9-to-5 was your additional stream of income funding your heartbeat? What if we didn't ditch our 9-to-5 so quickly? What would that look like, and how would that change our entrepreneurship approach? And it's been a hard year. It's been a hard year. And working 2 jobs, working coaching business, getting that launched, building that, and then still being in a 9-to-5. I call it a W-2 job, but it's been such a gift to be able to build a coaching business, not out of scarcity. And so, again, this position was a government-funded position, a grant-funded position, not government-funded, grant-funded position. And the grant expired. I knew it was expiring. I found out it was expiring when I accepted this full-time job. So like over 2 years ago. I knew that summer 2024 was when the grant was expiring. And there's a lot of ways that I dreamed that what would happen in July of 2024. What would happen? I knew my grant was expiring. Would I get another job? Would I get a promotion at the same place? Would I be in one or both of these businesses? What would that look like? I don't know what that would look like. And what's crazy about all of this is that God knew. God knew the exact right timing, because my grant ran out June 30th, 2024. So basically I lost that job. It wasn't going to get renewed. It wasn't a position that was going to get renewed. However, the Lord has equipped me with the strategies, the tools, and the mentors to be able to be fully self-employed by coaching business and a couple other gigs that I'm working. And also, June 30th, 2024 was the day that I moved. It's the day that I left my hometown and the day that I moved to be in the same city as my fiance. And so I say all this to catch you up on what the last crazy season has been. But I take a pause to celebrate the fact and to be grateful to a God who put this dream in my heart 4 years ago to be fully self-employed, to have an opportunity to share and create content, to be able to coach women, to be able to speak and to be able to be on stages and on Zooms and all these different things, to be able to share what the message that I believe that God has given me. And I'm so glad it didn't happen in 2020 because I'm healthier because of the last 4 years. I'm able to serve my clients better because of the last 4 years. And God is not a God of just coincidences. I get emotional thinking about the fact that in the summer of 2020, when I was just so jazzed about this, and I was like, coaching is probably 10 years away. And then in 2022, when God was like, no, you need to start coaching now. And I was like, are you kidding me? And then when coaching starts taking off and I realized that I need to sell my half of the business to my business partner, of the first business to my business partner. And then all in the middle of this, then I meet my person, and the day that my grant expires, the day that this job that has been such a surprise, but was God saying, sweetheart, I've got you. I know you've been through the ringer. I know that you've been exhausted and burnt out. And if you will let me, and if you'll be open to what only I can do, if you'll be open to the ways that I want to bless you, if you would not be so close-minded, I have something that I want you to step into that feels totally out of left field, that is in a whole different industry, that is temporary. That's what they told me. It was temporary. And then I was there for 4 years, almost 4 years. But that is temporary, that feels risky. But I want you to step into this because I have so much more for you, and I have a journey that I want to take you on. I feel like what God's been teaching me in this last season is yes, life is short. Life is short. So live the life you want to live today, but also take heart because life is a journey. Life is a journey, and I'm so glad I didn't get the shortcut. I'm so glad I didn't get the shortcut to things exploding and being thrust into. Let me tell you, entrepreneurship is hard. I would have not been able to handle it in 2020 or in 2021 the way that I'm able to handle it now. I'm so grateful that I didn't get the shortcut. And I think that it's a nice, really kind smile that, one, I'm just full of gratitude that here I am celebrating being fully self-employed, which felt like a pipe dream 4 years ago. And the day that I was like, what the heck am I going to do? June 30th, 2024. What am I going to do? June 30th, 2024. What am I going to do? Been thinking about it for 2 years. And I'm finally here. It's July now, but I'm finally here. And I am fully self-employed. I get to work with incredible women. I get to create incredible content that I'm so proud of. And I'm walking into a really wild new season with my future husband. I would have never imagined that this is how July 2024 would be, but here I am. And so I wanted to share, I wanted to catch you up because people love to talk about accomplishments and people love to celebrate engagements and weddings and babies. I'm not pregnant, obviously, but I'm just saying, in our culture, we go crazy for weddings and babies. And I am celebrating this moment, this accomplishment in my career of not giving up, of being open to the process and of being self-employed. I'm really, really proud of it. And it, in one hand, it happened a lot faster than I thought because I thought this was going to be 10 years. Well, this coaching part of it. But on the other hand, it was a lot slower. And so I hope this story encourages you. I hope it helps you feel a little less alone. If you feel like you're in the pits, if you feel like you're absolutely drowning, or if you just feel like there just has to be something different, or I'm just kind of done with this career. Like, I know I went to college for it and I know I've put like a decade into it, but I just think I kind of want to do something different. My friend, you have autonomy of your own life. So pray about it. Ask some mentors for support. Get curious about it. Ask the Lord about it. You are more than your job. Your life is a holistic experience. Your life consists of 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 or 66 days a year. That is your life. And so I want to encourage you to enjoy your life, to find things that bring delight and joy and pleasure and play to your life, to say no to relationships or circumstances or opportunities that suck the life out of you, to be able to set healthy boundaries, to be able to give yourself margin to process and to heal. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is the space, the margin, and maybe even the investment to grow and to heal on this journey that you're on. And so I hope this story encourages you. I hope that it challenges you. I want you to know that I'm coming from a place where I do not have every answer, that I am in the journey with you, but I am celebrating a really big win. I wanted you to know about it. I wanted you to invite you to celebrate with me. And I wanted to let you know that I hear you and I see you. I see you, my friend. I see you. I see your heart. I see your exhausted heart. If you can't do anything today, if your hands are tied, if you don't know where to start, I want to encourage you to do something kind for yourself. Do something kind. Go for a walk. Sit in the sunshine. Give yourself a moment. Take a bath. Buy a candle. Get you some ice cream. Do something fun. I have a whole solo date workbook. I love talking about solo dates. Take yourself out on a solo date. I think the workbook, well, you can download it here at the link below. But I just want to encourage you. Just do one thing today to show yourself kindness. You get to choose. You have autonomy of your own life. And if you feel stuck and if you feel like there isn't a way out, I want to encourage you to talk to somebody, to talk to a friend, to reach out and ask for help, to ask mentors or ask people who are where you want to be, what their journey was like, how they got there, what they're learning. And then also don't be afraid to ask for help. Get in therapy. Find a coach that you trust, that understands you. And enjoy this life. Enjoy this life the best you can. I am always in your corner. If you have any questions or need anything from me, go ahead and drop a comment here on YouTube or even on podcasts. I would love if you're on our podcast platforms to leave us a review. That would be absolutely wonderful. And just a reminder, we are releasing all of our podcasts on YouTube, youtube.com/Courtney Leo. That's Courtney with an extra Y because I'm extra, Leo. And I would love if you could subscribe there and like and comment, as that will help us get the word out to more people and reach more people. And we're going to be doing some really exciting stuff coming up. Plus, in the next couple episodes, Nick will be with me, and I think that'll be really fun to watch. I mean, listening is cool, but I think that'd be fun to watch too. So, I could almost bet the dogs will make an appearance at some point. Can almost guarantee that. I'm surprised they didn't make an appearance today. But anyways, I'm in your corner always. I hope this episode made you feel a little less alone and a little more seen. I hope to hear from you. I can't wait to interact with you in the comments. If you've got any questions for me, drop them below in the comment section or shoot me a DM on Instagram at Courtney Leo. Again, Courtney Leo, Y with an extra Y. Courtney with an extra Y, Leo. On Instagram, and I'll talk to you next episode. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the Grace for the Growth podcast with Courtney Leo. I hope that this conversation encouraged you and inspired you on your own growth journey and as you pursue a life full of authenticity and freedom. I want to encourage you to interact with us on social media at Grace for the Growth and at Courtney Y Leo. Also, if you've got any ideas, way that these episodes have impacted you or encouraged you, I want to invite you to either DM us or email us at hello@graceforthegrowth.com. Until next time, I challenge you to embrace your story, welcome the messy, sit in the unknown, and live authentically. Bye-bye now.